Hi everybody, it's Shadia Wade here, back with BP Vlogs. I hope you all had a pleasant Christmas or a happy holidays, depending on what your preference is. Um, Me and my family, we celebrate Christmas in a different way. Obviously, I'm Muslim, but we still celebrate Christmas because we have a child and we have instilled in our child that Santa is really just an idea. It's not a real person. Um, that Christmas is a season of giving, and the gifts you receive bring you joy, but joy really comes from giving. So we try to instill that in our son, that life is about giving to others and receiving gifts from them. Um, Obviously, you've heard me talk about happiness being the gift you give yourself. And, whether that's giving yourself the ability to be forgiven or, you know, finding joy in the little things or whatever the case may be, whatever makes you happy, giving that to yourself is really a big deal. And this time of year, the suicide rate is at its highest around the holidays. So, we have to really sit down and reflect on the things that bring us joy and make us happy, whether that's being around family or not, or being able to journal or go out into nature or listen to really good music or doing art. All of these things are really good and they all give you some sense of peace or wholeness or happiness. And, it's going to be different for everyone. Like some people, they're happiest when they're alone, and some people are happiest when they're in a crowd. So, whatever that is for you, you need to focus on that. For me, it's being able to spend time with family and even take time out for just myself. Like, I do a lot of journaling to reflect on all of the things that are going on in here. And, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot of anger, resentment, feelings of shame or guilt. I've come to a lot of conclusions about my life. And, there are things in my life that I would totally do differently, but I wouldn't be the same person if I did. So, do I accept the decisions I made in life as being a part of who I am today, or do I constantly fight against what has made me who I am? And, when I'm in group therapy, which I've been doing for about 2 weeks now, I've been coming to terms and conclusions of I have to accept who I am, and I have to accept the decisions I've made as being a permanent fixture of my life. Now, if I keep looking back on my past and saying I could have done it differently, that would that's impossible, like if I had done things differently, I wouldn't have the life I have today. And the life I have today is very fruitful. I have a husband that loves me, I have a child that loves me unconditionally, and I get to be a part of their lives. I get to see them grow. I get to enjoy that I make them happy. Like I realize that I can bring them a lot of sorrow and a lot of grief. Obviously, when I'm in a depressive state, I'm not a person that anyone would want to be around, but that's just a part of who I am. And, you know, my son and my husband are learning very quickly that they can help get me out of that. They just have to kind of take my hand and lead me through life a little bit and show me that there's more going on in the world than just what my scope of vision at that time is. Because when you're in a depressive state, you're blinded. You only see what's in that moment, what's right in front of you, instead of seeing through your peripheral and exposing everything in your line of sight. You're only focused on what's straight ahead. So, you know, I have to allow them to help me instead of feeling like this is something I can tackle on my own. And by being open and communicating and being honest about what's going on, which I have a difficulty doing because there's a lot of trust issues for me, they won't be able to help if I don't do that. If I don't clue them in to what's going on. Like, I'm so ashamed of my hallucinations and what they do that I don't talk to my husband about the fact that they're there and that they're a presence in my life. Like, when I get overly stressed or anxious or whatever you want to say, my hallucinations come full force. And, you know, they're there every day a little bit. Like, it gets to the point where I don't notice them, but they're still present. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, if I focus on them, I hear them. But most of the time, I'm not concentrated on them and I don't hear them, except for when I'm really anxious or stressed or whatever you want to call it. That's when they're loudest. And it's really unnerving, you know, because like you can walk through life and not hear anything because there's so much other stuff that calls your attention. And then out of nowhere, when you try and listen for them, they're there. And when you get really stressed out and you don't even realize that you're stressed out, that your body's under stress, they're there. And you're like, what's going on? It's like, I understand that not all people who are bipolar have this. I'm kind of an enigma when it comes to my diagnosis. I've got so many people trying to tell me what's wrong with me, and I don't hallucinate unless I'm really stressed. And that's what I like to say. I don't hallucinate unless I'm really stressed. And, you know, it's like a person who has seizures. A person who has seizures isn't having seizures 24/7. When their body is stressed or when their mental state is stressed out, they have a seizure. You know, that's just how it works. So I like to say that my hallucinations are kind of like seizures. They only happen when I'm under stress. And, you know, when I'm sick, they're more dominant because obviously that makes your physical body under stress. Or when I'm really anxious, meaning something is mentally disturbing my Zen thought process, you know, I hallucinate. You know, when I can't figure out what's wrong with my son and all he does is cry and whine and scream and shout and do all this stuff, I'm completely at a loss as to what to do. And my mental state becomes stressed because I want to be able to understand what my son's going through and what's bothering him. But sometimes I just don't know. And that doesn't make me a bad parent, but when he does it, it makes me feel like I'm a bad parent. So, you know, that's another thing that stresses me out. Like, I don't know what your stressors are as people who watch this channel or these episodes of this vlog, but stress is like the number one cause of of illness and I would say death, because everybody who's had any sort of illness and stuff is under stress, and your immune system is lowered, therefore you are more likely to get sick, and sickness leads to death in a lot of cases. So I would say that the number one killer in the world today is stress. So if you want to check facts on that, go right ahead. I know that NIM does studies about stress and stuff, and a lot of the stuff that I've read up on stress from NIM points to the fact that it affects more than just your mental state. It affects your physical state of being. So you can go to the National Institute of Mental Health, which is NIM, and just type in stress and pull that up. Like, just NIM stress. It should pull it up on Google. But, like, yesterday I was really, really excited. Like, I was elated. Like, I wanted to scream and yell and hoot and holler and jump around, skip around at the hospital, because my husband was going to be coming to the hospital to join us for the remainder of the day, and the groups that were going to take place there. Like, we had lunch and we sat in the groups, and it was really uplifting to know that he would take time out and be there for me. Like, it means a lot, and I don't think he realizes that. Like, I want him to better understand, like, the scope of what it's like to have a mental illness and to take part in this program that the hospital has. And, we think about, how different functions of life affect us. And, my husband is permanently fixed that I need labels. And he's right. I need a label, because if I don't know what something is, it bothers me, because then I can't find a solution for it. Like, let's say, like, E equals MC squared. Like, if we didn't know what those variables were, meaning the E and the MC and the square, if we didn't know that, we wouldn't understand the problem's solution. Therefore, we wouldn't understand the problem. So, when we talk about gravity, there's the formula for gravity. If we didn't understand what gravity was, would we be able to, like, conquer it? Because gravity is the force that holds you down to the earth, and it takes its toll on your physical body and all this stuff, and we can see that. But if we didn't have a name for what caused that, if gravity was not a vocabulary word, would we know how to really face the problem that is gravity? Like, I think it needs a term so that we can start formulating a solution, because, it's like, cancer. We know it's the cells dividing in the human body, and there's a switch that tells it to divide, 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 divide. And then there's a switch to tell it to stop. So it's like you've got a cell and then it divides, 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 divides. And your skin cells do this a lot. And they divide, 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 divide. And there's a switch that tells them to stop. You know, your skin cells don't really, because they constantly fall off. You're constantly shedding skin cells. But, you know, like the squamous and cuboidal cells that exist, like in the columnar cells in your throat and the the squamous cells on your tongue and things like that that are constantly there, like, but if you hurt the inside of your throat or the inside of your mouth at all, you know, cells divide, 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 and you shed the old ones, the burnt off ones or the scarred ones, and you have this brand new layer of cells that have taken its place. So, you know, obviously our body knows that dividing is not a good idea all the time, so it has a switch. But cancer mutates the cell so that it doesn't have an off switch. So that's how you get tumors and things of that nature. I'm sorry if I'm rambling on. I was actually a pre-med major because I was going to go into forensics. And that kind of all changed when my father was dying of cancer. Like, the topic of cancer came up a whole bunch, and I couldn't cope because my dad was sick in the hospital and I was trying to go to class, and I really wanted to spend time with him instead. So that explains why I know so much. But if we didn't have a name for the disease, you know, how would we combat that one particular disease? Because diseases have to have a name. If we just said, oh, it's a disease to everything, we wouldn't know necessarily, like, as a person, if your doctor said, oh, you have this disease, without giving it a name, would you really know how to combat it, what your options were? Like, the only person who would know is your doctor, but that's because he has all that information inside his head as to what's wrong with you. But you, as a person, when he says, oh, you have cancer, you automatically know what the treatments are because that information has been given to you through education or just personal study. And it's because it has a name. It's because it has a label. So when I got diagnosed as being bipolar, he was kind of like, you don't have bipolar because you don't have the ups and downs of a person who's bipolar. But my husband's never seen me in a manic state. Like, I was at school one day and I think I'd forgotten to take my medication or something. Or maybe I'd taken it and it just wasn't working. But I was extremely excited and happy all day. And when I got to my lab class for geology, we had a test, we had an exam. And I literally was bouncing off the walls, calling out answers to the practical exam where we had to go around and identify stuff. And I was just elated and happy and didn't think about the fact that I was giving away answers. It was just like, you know, I know what this is. It's this, blah, blah, blah. And bouncing around from station to station, just being that way. And I didn't even think about the consequences until well after the fact. Like, I could have been kicked out of class that day and gotten an F on the final because of my behavior. And, like, luckily I didn't, because, you know, the instructor knows that I'm bipolar. I had expressed that to her the last semester I had her. So it was really nice to not be punished for something that is really not within my scope of control. Like, when I'm in a manic state, sometimes I don't know that I am, and sometimes I do, because, it's a compulsion to act a certain way, and I was exuberantly happy and didn't care. It was like yesterday when my husband was there. I was elated and I literally wanted to go skipping and running through the corridors because I was that happy. And I still am. And it's a euphoric kind of happy, which is unnerving because to have that level of just joy is not normal, we think. And, people who are bipolar, we experience this euphoric, like, joy, this this level of happiness that, you can't really express in words, but when you see it, it's just like the person lights up and is just happy-go-lucky and does not care about consequences of their decisions, and that can be dangerous. Like, when I was in class or when I was in the hospital, they could have locked me up at the hospital. They could have said, you need to go into inpatient again and, get your meds situated. But they didn't. And, when I was at school calling out answers for the tests, I didn't get kicked out. But I was very lucky, that there were people there who knew my disorder and understood that, this is just a part of who I am, and it's a part I really can't help. But I try and help it because I understand that being elated is a danger. Like, I remember getting speeding tickets one after another, and it's because driving fast sometimes gives me joy, and I don't care if I get pulled over. Or sometimes I just, like, even when I'm in a depressive state, I just want to get home. And so I'm just driving as fast as I can to get home so that I can, like, go to sleep and feel better. I don't know if anybody else who suffers with bipolar disorder really feels this way, but, like, the feelings I have are just, like, intense. Like, I can't explain it. And, there's this other thing that goes on with me. Like, if I don't take my medication or if my medication's not working, I'm overtly, I'm overwhelmingly is not the word I'm looking for. I'm overwhelmingly sensationalized. Like, all of my senses are heightened. It's like an adrenaline rush. And it's like all of your nerve endings are raw and exposed, and you feel everything, like, sensory wise. And, you can't open your eyes wide enough to absorb the world around you. Like, you feel everything that's touching your skin. You smell everything. I can't really smell because I'm congested, but you smell everything, and it's just overpowering. Like, good smells, bad smells, it's just this perfume of the world. And, you can taste the things that you're smelling. It's just, oh my God. you know, and I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. And, like, it's been this way for a week, and I can't figure out why I'm this way. Um, because I'm on all my medications and then some, and I'm taking them as prescribed, and, there's no resolution, and I'm just there. Like, I don't know if it's just that my disorder uh, is stronger than my medications now or what, but this is how I feel when I'm not medicated. um, this overwhelming sensory overload is how I feel when I am not medicated or my medication isn't working. And it's part of why I went into the hospital is because I felt like this for 2 days and I was like, that's it. I'm done. Let's go to the hospital. Like, I was contemplating divorce and flying away. You guys already know this. But, like, you know, where do we go? What do we do? And I'm trying to accept this sensory part as a permanent thing because I might not ever stop having this overwhelming, sensationalized, like, body. Like, I might permanently have to deal with this. And, when I'm happy, it's great. But when I'm angry or depressed, it's horrible. And, yesterday and today, it doesn't really affect me. I'm happy that it's there. I love that this feeling. But when I'm depressed or angry, it's the most horrific feeling to be in this body. And I don't know if other people who suffer with bipolar disorder ever get like this. Maybe I am truly an enigma that can't be figured out. But ah, life is just crazy. And I don't like to say crazy because, you know, um, I don't think I'm crazy all the time. Like, when I hallucinate and stuff, I feel like I need to be in a straitjacket in a padded room because I become physically violent and want to hurt myself, and the ideas of suicide come into play because nobody wants to hear that they're a worthless piece of crap and that they're a horrible parent or a whore or whatever. And those are the things that my voices tell me that I am. And I didn't use the colorful language that the voices use because I don't feel it's appropriate for this vlog. But I am none of those things because I've accomplished so much in such a short span of my existence. I've experienced things that most people don't experience in their lifetime. Like, I've gone skydiving, I've gone crack climbing in Joshua Tree. Like, I served in the military for almost 6 years. I experienced what it's like to live in different parts of the United States and even in different countries. I've gotten to meet some really amazing people and get married and buy a house. Like, some people don't even accomplish that. And I have a kid. Some people don't even get to accomplish that. Like, I'm very fortunate in my life and I've gotten to experience a lot. Like, if I died tomorrow, I would be content with going because I've experienced life. Would I think that I would want to see my son grow up and get married to a wonderful woman? Of course. But those things will happen, whether I'm here or not, in a physical body. Like, I have gotten to see him start school which I was petrified for. You know, I talked about it in this vlog, how scared I was for him, you know, because it was the same day that I decided to start wearing hijab. Like, I had set up a goal date for when I would start wearing it because that's what I wanted to do. And I really debated whether or not to do it because my son was starting school. And I'm like, I've got to do this because it's going to be really weird if I start wearing it in the midst of him being in school. You know, like, I don't think people understand why I just all of a sudden started wearing it. And, you know, I had debated the whole thing prior to my son starting school. So, it was like a big deal to be like, okay, I'm done. We're doing this. Like, I got all the stuff I needed to start wearing hijab. You know, I researched a whole bunch of different ways to wear it, and, you know, like, I felt comfortable. Like, I'm more comfortable wearing the hijab than I was without it, which sounds really strange, you know, because I grew up not wearing it, and I got married not wearing it, and I had a kid and life, and it was all the way up until like September, like August, September, that I went without wearing it. Like, I started wearing it in August. I became a Muslim back in June, I want to say. And I just felt whole. And as I got closer to God in my faith, I felt whole and at peace and comfortable. And I really, like, being on and off sick and stuff really has taken its toll because it separates me from God a little bit because I can't do the 5 obligatory prayers because I can't perform purification. I can't perform wudu. And the reason I say that is because when I'm congested, I can't get the water up my mouth. Because what you do is you wash your hands, you wash your face, snort water up your nose to clean out your sinuses and stuff. You wash out your mouth, like all this stuff. I'm not even giving it in any particular order. Your arms, your head, your ears, and your feet. I can do everything but get the water up there, so it's like, does it really count? You know, I think of it as that. It doesn't really count because I haven't done a proper purification. Like, if any Muslims watch this and know whether or not having the ability to do a complete purification or not cancels out whether you can pray, please let me know, because that is like the biggest question I have. Like, I haven't been able to find any information as to, like, if you're sick, like with a cold or whatever, a sinus infection. Like, I get upper respiratory infections a lot, so it's like a chronic thing. So if anybody has any insight as to whether or not you can do a proper wudu, like the snorting of the water up your nose, matters, or if I'm excluded because I'm sick, please let me know, because this is like the biggest concern, because I feel horrible because I can't pray. Like, That is the thing I miss. I miss prayer. And I haven't been able to pray for months because I've been on and off with bronchitis. And then obviously, when I'm not sick, I'm menstruating. And I can say that because I don't care if y'all know my issues. I'm menstruating and I can't pray. So it's like, it's either one or the other. And I just feel like crap because I can't pray. I do it, but I don't feel as close to God as when I'm praying, when I'm prostrated. So if you are a Muslim and you've been able to um, talk with scholars or imams, please let me know what they say about this because I don't feel as close to God as I could be. And I feel closest to God when I am prostrated in prayer. So let me know because that really would help me to not feel guilty or ashamed that I can't do that stuff because really I feel like I'm not holding up my end of the bargain when it comes to faith. It sounds really crappy, but there's 5 obligatory prayers for Muslims. Um, and, you know, I'm not able to do them because I can't do the proper purification. And you have to purify yourself before you do prayer. It, I can't explain it to people who are not, you know, really orthodox in their beliefs. But you're supposed to be pure and modest before God. So if that helps you a little bit, I hope so. But that's all I can really do to explain that. It's like, would you go disheveled up to your boss or to church? No, you would want to go in a decent, presentable fashion. You'd want your hair to be combed or brushed, and you would want to wear clean clothes that, you know, showed that you care, that you have self-care. So that's the point behind it, is that you're supposed to care about your uh, personal appearance and stuff. Um, what else? Yeah, let me know about the whole prayer thing, because that's my biggest concern as of late. That's the thing that I can honestly say that is a regret for me. And I really shouldn't regret it because I've had a valid reason. I've been sick, but I don't know enough about what, like, the purification process or the being able to be exempt from prayer because of illness. Um, because, you know, I don't know enough in that part of the religion. Like, everything that I've understood so far is like you have to purify yourself before prayer, and you can abstain from fasting and stuff, um, and I think even prayer if you're sick. But to be chronically ill, I don't know. Um, I just feel like I'm not making the grade. But anyway, uh, oh gosh. I'm just a hot mess this morning. Every time you see me, I'm wearing this or the white uh, scarf thing, head covering, whatever, hijab, and this hoodie. and maybe a black shirt of some sort. And I think you all feel like I don't change my clothes. I do change my clothes. I do wash my clothes. Um, Usually when I do this, it's really early in the morning in Tennessee. It's usually about 6 or 7 o'clock, and my house is quiet because my husband and son are sleeping, and I'm in my pajamas doing this. So if you want to know, that's the answer. I wear a hoodie because it's cold in the mornings, um, and I wear a t-shirt to sleep in and some pajama pants, and you know, I'm just comfortable. Um, there have been times where you have seen me in other tops, other shirts, and those are usually when I'm dressed and my house is awake. But you always end up seeing me this or in the white one. Um, and that's because I don't want to go through all the trouble of putting on a nice, pretty hijab. It's like I just want to throw something on and start talking to you because it's like I have it in my mind where I want to start a conversation, a dialogue, and just let out what's in my mind. But I don't want to go through all the trouble. um, yeah, I'm a little lazy uh, and stuff, but I don't. I'll be honest. It's just I'm at home and I don't wear the headscarf, so it's like I just want something that's quick, easy, and I can just start talking to you because I like being able to talk with you guys. Um, and clue you in as to what's going on with me and what it is to be bipolar and how life is going as I continue to move through life with my diagnosis. Um, like I've said before, people either think I'm bipolar or a major depressive disorder, and I kind of go in between the two of those. And it's just really weird because like, I know that I've had manic states, but doctors don't see that, so they don't think that those exist. And I'm just like, I don't understand you. Like, I'm telling you I'm bipolar because I knew it. Like, if I didn't think I was bipolar, I would tell you I'm not bipolar. But I've read up and I've done the education stuff in regards to the diagnosis, and I've done it for major depressive disorder. And the one that best fits with every symptom that I've had thus far in treatment of, of my disorder has pointed out that I'm bipolar. Yeah, I have some paranoia that comes from the borderline traits, and yeah, I hallucinate, which would be the psychosis. I agree with those two things. But whether I'm major depressive disorder or bipolar, I've been elated. So and I've been elated a couple of times in my life. Uh, I can't name them all, but there are two very distinct ones for me. So, uh, I would say that I'm bipolar type 1 because that means that you have to have multiple manic states and multiple depressive states, which is very true for me. And so I agree that I have bipolar disorder. I don't agree with being major depressive disorder. I have a lot more times of depression than I do of mania, but like to be bipolar, you have to have at least one of mania. And if you've only had one manic episode and the rest are all depressive, you're bipolar type 2. So I would say I'm bipolar, you know. And that's just based off of looking at my life. Like, if I looked at somebody else's life and I saw those patterns, I would assume that they are bipolar. I wouldn't assume that they're major depressive disorder. When I look at my sister, I see major depressive disorder because she goes from being neutral to depressed, and she stays depressed for a long time, and then slowly climbs back up to neutral, and then shifts, and then comes down. She doesn't ever really hit a incredibly high point, so I would say that my sister has major depressive disorder, but I don't tell her that because I'm not a doctor. But when you look at the DSM for the different diagnoses, yeah, the DSM would concur that I'm bipolar. Anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because the doctor at the hospital I was at just this past few weeks diagnosed me as major depressive disorder, and he was really quick to diagnose me as that than bipolar disorder, but he doesn't like to diagnose people as being bipolar. So, ta-da! I know better, and I disagree with him. You know, I've spent years with the diagnosis of being bipolar, and the diagnosis of being bipolar has been with me a lot longer than major depressive disorder has. So I'm gonna go with that one. And I've had the same doctor treating me for bipolar disorder a lot longer than I've had for major depressive disorder. So I'm inclined to agree that the doctor who's been treating me for the past few years knows what they're talking about. But anyway, I just keep rabbit trailing. This is a really long video, and I'm so sorry. I'm sure that all of you will not watch this video the whole way through, but I hope that you have a stellar new year and that you continue to find your own happiness in whatever it is that you enjoy, and that you stick with it and help carry that through the years. Because if you know what it is and you know what to do to get that joy, you need to do that, not just for other people, but for yourself, because seriously, you deserve it. I know I do, and I hope that you will stay tuned and stay watching. Bye, and love you all.